welcome to Darvanalee Design Studio. My name is Nicole Reed and today we're going to make a cute little napkin holder for when you go on those picnics. So let's get started. Just a few things that you're going to need today to make our cute little napkin holder. So you're going to need some hat elastic. You're going to need some thread coordinating with your fabrics. You're going to need 2 fat quarters, a rotary cutter. You're going to need a napkin, which that's going to serve as your template. You're also going to need a button, and I thought that button was very cute to go with it. So you're also going to need some pins, a quilting ruler, an iron and an ironing board, a working sewing machine, and some hand sewing needles because we have to sew the button on by hand at the end. So basically, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our napkin, and this is going to serve as our template. So basically, you're going to just measure that with your quilting ruler, and it comes in at about 12 inches square. It's a little bit bigger on one side, but you could get away with 12 inches square. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to cut 2 pieces of fabric from our fat quarters, which I've got over here. So this will be our, this is completely reversible, this napkin holder. So you can have 2 pretty fabrics like this on the inside as well as the outside, but I'm going to have this hexagon one with this floral one for the outside. So I'm going to cut 1 square from each fabric, and it will be 12 inches. So as you can see, I'm just lining up the edge of the fabric on the 12 inch and the bottom of the fabric, which you can't really see on camera, which I'll move it up a little bit for you because 12 inches is quite large. So I'm just lining it up the best I can. It's not entirely straight, this fabric, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit bigger and then I'll trim it up from there. And now that I've got those 2 straight edges, I can just take off that little bit of excess. And get rid of that. I set that aside, and then I do the same for my second fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to head over to the iron and give them a really good press, and then I'm going to come back. Now, I don't worry about putting any stabilizer or anything in this napkin holder, but if you want to, if you find that your fabric's a little bit fine, by all means add some Shapeflex 101 or something along those lines. But for the purposes of this, what I'm going to use this for, it's not really necessary. It's not a it's just something that gets thrown in the wash all the time. It holds the napkins, and yeah, so you don't necessarily have to put it in, but you can. Okay, so we've pressed our fabrics, and now we are going to cut our hat elastic. So you want to cut 3 pieces at 2.5 inches. So basically what happens is we bring that around and it gives us a little loop like that, a nice little loop. So grab your scissors and cut yourself 3 2.5 pieces of elastic. And if you don't have hat elastic, you can always use a little bit of ribbon. So if you use ribbon, you will have to cut it at a little bit slightly bigger because there won't be as much give. Alrighty, so we've got our 3 pieces there. Okay, so now what we've got to do is we take our elastic and we're going to add it into the 3 corners. Now, you can do that a couple of ways. You can do it on your sewing machine, which can be a little bit problematic for some people because the elastic is only thin and it'll move backwards and forwards. So basically I will just get a hand sewing needle and I'm just going to tack it in place, and then I will run over it with the sewing machine for that added strength. Okay, so I've got some thread and I've got my needles. And it doesn't matter what colour thread you use, you can use anything you want. And I just make sure that it's a double thread. So I just put a piece of thread through the needle and bring it down and then tie it off at the bottom. And then basically all I'm going to do is take my elastic, make a loop with it, and then I'm going to attach it like so into the corner, so the loop part is pointing into this, and you want to put it onto the right side of the fabric. And then I just come up and over just to secure it in spot. And you can see there it's just securing it nicely. And then what this will do is it'll just make it a little bit easier when I run it through the sewing machine. It won't move on me. So you can see there I've just done a couple of tack stitches and it's just holding it nicely. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is because, as I said, it's just a tacking. So you can see there that that is now held that in place. And when I run it, when I do the 1/4 inch seam allowance and I come up to the corner, I will actually go off and start it off the fabric to come down again, and I will reverse a couple of times on that elastic, because this is going to go over a button, so you want it to have added security. And you just repeat that with the other corners. Okay, so that's our last one on. We'll just knot that off and then we'll be ready to sew our lining on. Now just set your hand needle aside because you will need that to put your button on. Okay, so we've got our three corners done. As you can see, we just hand tack them in place. So I will now grab my lining fabric and I'm going to place them right sides together, making sure that the elastic is actually going into the center and not poking out. And then we're going to, and it doesn't matter what side, you're going to just do a couple of little marks, which I've already done. So you just about 3 inches for an opening, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch starting here all the way around and stopping here and reversing when we start and stop. Okay, so we've stitched 1/4 inch all the way around, and I have actually done, as I've come up to each corner where the elastic is, I have done a reverse backwards and forwards leading into this corner and then coming down this corner, done the same thing, just to give it that little bit extra reinforcement. So now what we're going to do is just take out some of that bulk from the corners, just so we get a nice point. Not too much, because you don't want to lose your elastic security there. So you just want to take a little bit out, not too much. And then we're going to turn it right way out. Okay, so we've turned it all inside out. Now what we're going to do is give it a really good press, and then we are going to top stitch all the way around, and then we will sew our button onto this last corner, and then our little project will be finished. If you find some of your corners aren't quite poking out, just get your little chopstick or something like that and give it a really good poke. So you can see our elastics are nice and secure. Just make sure that you fold your seam in for your opening. Alrighty, so now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge all the way around, and then we'll sew our button on and I'll show you how to assemble it from there. Okay, so we've top stitched all the way around. Our opening is now closed, and now what we need to do is add our button on. Now when we put our button on, we're not going to lay it flat like that. We actually have to sew it onto the tip here. Now that can be a little bit difficult. So basically what you do is you get your thread, and I've got a double thread here because that just gives it that extra security, because you are going to be actually using this and undoing it. I make a little knot, And then what I do is I just go into the seam on the side, and then I just come out on the tip. So I don't know if you can see that real clear on the video, but just go into the side and come out at the tip. Okay, and then I just give it a little bit of a tug, and that knot will just disappear in there. Then I grab my button and I put my thread through, and I pull it down to the end, and then I pull it as securely as I can, and then I just go back in to that same spot on the tip. Okay, and you can see there that it's starting to stitch to the tip. So give it a bit of a tug, go down into that seam, out the other side, and then back up into the button. So you want to get it onto the tip of that corner as best as you can. Like, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It's just so it sits. So you can see there, it's just, mine's a little bit wonky. I don't really care because it still will sit securely. It'll still hold the napkins in, because it isn't an easy thing to do to sew them onto the tip. Just try your best, and that's all you can do. Now, because this is going to be used a fair amount of time, I do use a double thread, and I go through quite a number of times. Probably about 8 times I will go through, and or more, especially for these, because they are used for quite a bit and they're undone. And then you can see there's quite an amount of thread. Don't know if that's focusing properly or not. So you can see there's quite an amount of thread on there, and that's going to secure it quite nicely. And if I pull on that, you can see that is very secure. Alright, so now what I do is I just do a couple of knots, just thread it back through, just some basic knots through the threads, and that just secures everything in place. And I can snip that off. That's done. I'll put my needle down there. So that's it. You can see there that my button is secure. I've got my elastics in the other 3 corners. So now all there's left to do is grab some napkins and place it in there. So basically what you do is you put it on point, so you can see there, and then you put your napkins in square like this. Okay, I'll just grab some more. And then you want them placed in the center, then you bring your corners up and you just secure them in place. Now that can actually have a few more in there, so I'll just load that up a little bit more. Just bring each corner up and you just slide the elastic over the button, like so, and there you have it. And when you want to use it, you can just unhook one and then you can just remove a napkin like so. And it's a great little gift or quickie gift that you can give to someone at Christmas, or for birthdays, for people that you know like to go on hikes and do picnics and all that sort of stuff, and it just stops your napkins from blowing everywhere. And each little holder should hold a packet of napkins. So there you go, I just put some more in, just fiddle with them, and there you go, a cute little napkin holder. So these napkins were slightly smaller than the first one that I made, and I just used a little flower button that went nicely with the fabric. And so you can see there that we've got 2 different sorts, and you can just pick them up. It doesn't matter what sort of button you use or anything like that. It's a great little quick project for you to try today, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I really hope that you enjoyed our quick little tutorial on how to make this gorgeous little napkin holder. They're a great addition to any picnic set, and it keeps your napkins from blowing away while you're out enjoying the great outdoors. If you like this video today, give us a thumbs up down below. Leave us a comment because we always love to hear from you. Hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. My name's Nicole Reed for Darvanalee Design Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.